Hello, everybody, and welcome to another session on Wildlife Weekly with Nikhil. First of all, I would like to wish you all a very happy World Biological Diversity Day. And to celebrate this Biological Diversity Day, today we have a session on a very less known marine animal, which is called as a dugong. And also, we'll be celebrating a World Dugong Day on 28th May. So to talk about this very not very well known dugong, we have today with us Chinmaya Ghanekar. So first of all, I would add her to the chat. Hello Chinmaya, welcome to Wildlife Weekly with Nikhil.
Hi, how are you?
I am doing fine. So everybody, Chinmaya is a very good friend of mine. I know her since she was doing her graduation, if I'm not wrong, and now she's doing some amazing work with Wildlife Institute of India. So Chinmaya, if you could just quickly tell us what currently work you're doing and where are you situated right now?
Yes, I am currently doing my PhD in Wildlife Institute of India. So I'm working under this Campa Dugong Recovery Program, which we will be talking about obviously in next coming minutes. And I'm doing my PhD in seagrass associated fish.
Okay.
So it's a part of that project.
Right.
And then there are many components.
Right.
Right now I'm situated in Tamil Nadu.
Okay.
Park Bay and Gulf of Mannar.
Okay.
So we are working in both these areas.
Great.
Currently here.
Right. So today's topic is about dugong. So it's the first question that pops up in mind of, I guess, most of the viewers, that what is a dugong? It's not an everyday sea animal that you come along. So could you tell us what is this dugong?
Sure. So many of us have seen dolphins, whales, either in like I'm not saying real life, but documentaries or whatever videos and stuff. But this is one animal which is not like seen very regularly in all this stuff also. So this animal is a marine mammal, looks like kind of walrus, kind of seal, I may say, but not exactly like them, which is brownish grayish in color. I guess you can see it in the photo. It looks, it does not have a fin like dolphin or whale. It just have a smooth upper body and a fin like whale. A lot of people have seen a V-shaped fin of tail fin of whale. It's similar to that, not exactly same, but similar to that.
Okay.
And the flippers, yeah. So it kind of looks like this, what you're looking on screen.
Okay, and I guess there's a question asking about the common local names. I guess this is found in many places. So
yeah,
do we know its common names?
So in India, it is like in general English, it is called sea cow.
Okay.
In India, it is found in Gujarat, Tamil Nadu, and Andaman. And according to the local languages, there are very different names to this animal. So here in Tamil Nadu, they call it Kadalpasu or Aulia. In Gujarat, they call it Samudri Gai, I'm not wrong. And in Andaman, they call it, in Andamanese language, they call it Thoti.
Okay.
I hope that's correct. But so there are very different names. Also, there is one very interesting story, mythological story, which our Sir Dr. Shiv Kumar tells us all the time, and why it is so important in Indian culture also. Because when Dwarka was getting destroyed or going underwater, as Krishna's favorite animal was cow. All the cows requested Krishna that we don't want to get drowned. We want to live. We don't want to be destroyed in all this situation. So Krishna converted all the cows into sea cows.
Oh, okay.
And now they also like normal cows, they also graze underwater. They have quite similar properties like cows. So this is one culturally important stories of dugongs and how it shows that from many years it's been there and people have been connected with these animals.
Right. Great.
So
So yes, we have been talking about dugongs in India, but is it the situation that dugongs are only found in India? And could you tell us about their
uh,
population status also?
okay, so dugongs are found worldwide. It's
Okay.
not like they're found only in India. So but worldwide also in Indian and Pacific Ocean.
Okay.
They are not found in other oceans. So other
Right.
oceans, they have their cousins called manatees, but they are
Okay.
quite different from them because manatees also use fresh water for
Oh,
as
okay.
their habitat. But dugongs are strictly marine animals, the only herbivore animal in India we are finding right now. So they are found in African coast, uh, Red Sea, Australia. So the most population, the biggest population in the world of dugongs is in Australia.
Right.
In like Great Barrier Reef, they have around 10,000 population. Then there is
Yeah.
a bay called Moreton Bay. There is a 10,000 population. So Australia is like biggest home of dugongs, following Red Sea. So around
Okay.
7,000 individuals are there in
Wow.
Red Sea.
Great.
And in African coast, they are found in pockets, and India and Southeast Asian countries, or mostly island countries, they are also found in pockets.
Acha.
There are some records of them being around China and Japan also.
Wow.
But right now, those populations are seem to be declining. Actually,
Okay.
overall population of dugongs
Are
is seem
declining.
to be declining currently. And in
Okay.
IUCN, it's the status of dugongs is vulnerable. But
Okay.
in India, like in our context, they are considered critically endangered because
Right.
we only have about 200 animals left in
Right.
total, all
Right.
in the
Wow.
whole country. So it's quite an alarming number for us.
Right. Right. So
Yeah, and then
no, go
yeah,
on. Go on.
may I add something?
Sure. Sure. Sure.
Yeah. So when we see as a population, a lot of times we tend to think that the population, all the animals are same, but in that doesn't happen all the time. Like African cheetah and Indian
Right.
African lion and Indian lions are
Yeah.
different. Asian lions are different. Dugongs are also genetically different in that
Okay.
we have found in our recent study. So the
Okay.
Indian population of dugongs, whatever samples we have right now,
Mm-hmm.
from that at least we can say it's a totally different population from
Population.
Australian and Red Sea.
Okay.
So it is a very important point in terms of their conservation, that
Right.
not only because there are many dugongs in Australia, it's okay to lose them here.
Yes.
It's not like that.
Yes.
The variation cannot be lost.
Yeah. So I was coming to the question about their conservation, that we'll be celebrating World Dugong Day in very short time. So with
Yes.
importance of what you already mentioned, that only maybe 200 individuals are there with the Indian population, which has been identified
Yeah.
genetically. And since you
Hmm.
already mentioned that their population is on decline, what are the current threats that you can immediately see or maybe can predict they'll have in future? And how this World Dugong Day that you'll be celebrating is then important in their conservation?
So threats, as in we all see the common threats that we all see are pollution, coastal development. Those all already are affecting all the marine life, and that includes dugongs also. They are not
Right,
different.
right.
Uh, but the immediate or direct threats, if we talk about, is our boat hits, then
Okay,
getting entangled into fishing nets,
okay.
and one important part is hunting.
Oh,
They are hunted. Yeah,
okay.
they are hunted. It's not like they're hunted only in India. Since as I mentioned previously, they are part of our culture since many,
Right,
many years. It
right.
is also a part of culture that we hunt and eat them.
Oh,
So
okay.
in different countries, they have different cultures, and in some the ancient paintings we have found, I guess around somewhere Malaysia, they
Okay,
have paintings of hunting dugongs also.
okay.
So it's that old
Right,
culture.
right,
But
right.
right now, yeah, right now we don't have that kind of population where the hunting can be supported. So
Exactly.
by hunting them, we are even reducing them. So
Right.
these are these three are main threats. The
Okay.
one thing about fisheries is uh, it's not like we can stop it immediately, but
Okay.
we can at least do it responsibly. So what
Right.
happens with net entanglement or boat hit is one thing I guess I have not mentioned yet, that dugongs are very difficult to spot.
Right.
One, they are very brownish grayish in color, so they
Yeah.
kind of like it's not very differentiable in murky waters, especially like
Right.
brownish color waters. Blue waters it's still okay.
Yeah.
uh, and then when they as they are mammals, they need to breathe, so they come on surface for
Okay.
breathing. Just like their nasal part, the nose only comes, a small triangle comes up, and then they
Okay.
go down.
Go down.
That's all you can see. So you can't it is very difficult to spot them. So
Right.
you can't see the whole animal or all the time.
Yeah.
When the waters are clear, that's a different story. But in here in Gujarat, the waters are really murky. We have
Right.
a lot of sediments and we
Right.
have brown colored
Yeah.
waters. So it's very difficult to spot them. So when they are around, we don't know they are around. So then they can be can be entangled in net very
Right.
easily, because
Right.
people put net for 5-6 hours. The gill
Yes.
nets and set nets are
Right.
put for
Right.
5-6 hours. Also, they are very slow as swimmers. They are not
Okay.
like very quick swimmers like
To
dolphins.
get away.
So
Right.
when if yeah, so if fishermen are dragging some nets or trawling
Mm-hmm.
something, they cannot run away in a faster speed.
Right.
So that is also a problem. The second problem is their surfacing time. So they come on surface for breathing every 5 to 6 minutes or
Okay.
lesser than that,
Oh.
not more than that.
Okay.
So they might come in every 2 minutes also, two
Oh.
minutes, 3 minutes, or 5 to 6 minutes. So
Okay.
it's a very short time. So they come up very frequently,
Acha.
and that's where is the most chance they can get hit with a
Hit by
boat,
a boat.
and they
Right.
get seriously, yeah, they
Right.
can get seriously injured and die subsequently.
Wow.
So these are like immediate threats. It's kind of their biology also affecting
Right.
their conservation, and the increasing pressure of our food demands
Right.
that is
Of
going to
course.
harm them.
Of course. So again, what you
Yeah.
mentioned is just finding them and just 200 maybe individuals left. So just finding one individual is really difficult, and maybe I can relate to it because even when you're working on land, maybe sometimes finding some individuals of any species becomes
True.
difficult. But then what we all tend to do is we depend on the indirect signs, maybe some other signs that
Yeah.
animal has left. And I remember you telling me that these dugongs have a very interesting feeding pattern, and which deals with
Yeah.
the sea grasses. And then your current work of PhD also deals with sea
Hmm.
grasses. So I guess we have some images to share with. So we'll do that till then. If you can tell us how they do this grazing, and then we'll continue with your work.
Yeah. So can you show the first
Yes, I'll,
photo where
I'll,
the whole
I'll
dugong is
share.
seen?
Acha, the whole dugong. Okay, just a minute.
Huh.
Yeah.
First one. Yeah. So if you can see the mouth part, it's like one inverted U-shaped mouth. It
Right.
has a huge mouth,
Right.
and the dentition, I mean the teeth are not very well developed.
Okay.
It's not like they can bite on something or chew something very rigorously, but the mouth is like U-shaped or in a horseshoe shaped kind
Okay.
of.
Okay.
So what they do is they graze on the sea grasses. So as on land we have grasses and
Yeah.
form lawn kind of structures. Yeah. So here in underwater also there are lawns, grasses.
Right.
These are the main food of dugongs. They
Okay.
don't till now there are almost none records of them eating something else or
Right.
algae for that matter.
Right.
They are almost completely dependent on these sea grasses.
Okay.
And if you can see, if you imagine this is a full lawn of sea grasses, you can see there are these furrows or these gaps.
Right.
So these gaps are made by grazing, by eating with that U-shaped mouth. So they
Right.
are very peculiar. So some individuals go in straight lines, some individuals go a circle around seagrasses. It
Right.
depends on them.
But at
But
least you
if you can
can
see
make out the
these furrows,
pattern.
yes. And these are very important signs
Right.
of dugongs because it shows that they are actively using that area.
Right.
It's
Right.
not like they're coming and going. They're actively using it for feeding. So it becomes one very important area in terms of conservation and studying them also. So it is a very
Right.
good
Right.
sign to identify dugongs. Plus,
It's very
sometimes
interesting.
in some recordings we have one. I guess it's not seen in this photo, but if you can imagine, uh, there is one big empty furrow, and then
Okay.
there is one small empty furrow
Okay.
beside it, just
Okay.
by side of it. So it
Okay.
shows that it's mother and calf. The big
Right.
furrow
Right.
is of the mother and
Great.
small furrow is of the calf. So it can also tell that it's a breeding
Right.
population, it's a
Right.
growing population. So that is also a very good sign. And we found it in Gujarat, which is
Acha.
like one
Wow.
happy sign for all of us.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I mean, so much you can tell from such indirect signs. It's really interesting.
exactly.
So,
And as the calf is very, very dependent on mother,
okay.
it stays with mother.
How
It
long?
does not go very far from mother.
How
So it
long?
is dependent on the mother's milk around 2 years,
Oh,
on the
okay.
milk of mother
Okay.
around two
Okay.
years. And then till its full maturity, which is around 5 to 6 years, it stays with the mother.
Oh,
So
okay.
mother literally teaches the calf everything.
Right.
So it's like the bond with our mother. So they are
Right.
extremely attached with each
Attached.
other when it is like yeah, when it is with mothers and calves. So they say sometimes that the mother also get very distracted or stressed when the calf
Ah.
is dead or something.
Oh,
It's like
right.
the fishermen tell us
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. That's that's very much possible. So, Chimna, coming to
Yeah.
your work, what you are doing with seagrasses, I guess these photos tell us a lot, but I would like you to tell us in detail that how your work is important in all this dugong conservation thing.
So the project involves four things basically, which
Mm-hmm.
is research monitoring of dugongs, their
Right.
habitats,
Right.
and outreach and awareness of all the stakeholders. So in the project, we have many stakeholders, including Indian Navy, Coast
Okay.
Guard,
Right.
Forest Department. And our main stakeholder or the immediate stakeholder is the fishermen because they
Right.
go out every day into the
Right.
sea.
Right.
They kind of interact with the animals. So managing these fishermen or managing the fishery becomes a very important part in our project. So my topic kind of deals with that, my PhD topic. So what I see is what fish are dependent on seagrasses, how they are
Okay.
using seagrass meadows, so
Okay.
that we can tell the fishermen that these fish are depending on the seagrasses, and then how seagrasses are important not only for dugongs but for us also.
Us also. Right. Right.
Currently, yeah, currently in India, we have very few studies about seagrass and fish because all
Okay.
our fishery policies are kind
Right.
of concentrated on corals and open water fisheries.
Yeah. Right.
Uh, it's not only India, I would say, in like worldwide scenario also, seagrasses are quite ignored as fishing grounds. But what I see here in Tamil Nadu, there are a lot of people, at least marginal fishermen community who are just completely dependent on the small scale fishery.
Okay.
They go out in the seagrass and fish actively in the seagrass meadows
Wow.
for
Wow.
fish, for shrimps, for crabs. So they are really important when it
Right.
comes
And
to
they
these
know where
fishermen
to
who
find
are
these.
the
So they know
immediate
these
stakeholder.
seagrass areas.
Yeah, completely. And it's very interesting because what I have seen till now is the coral associated, famously known coral associated fish,
Right.
their juveniles or the which are actually not how would I say? not known as using seagrass meadows.
Okay.
They are also coming and feed their juveniles, especially. They are also coming and feeding in the seagrass or
Okay.
hiding in the
Interesting.
seagrass, which
Acha.
makes seagrass very important for the fishes we eat.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
it is also important for us. So that's what I'm looking at currently in my PhD.
Wow. So tell us something about these photos, because I know this is too much work underwater, and how much time you spend, what all things you do underwater, and how
Yeah.
difficult and challenging it is.
So as pretty as it looks, it is. I'm not denying it. Not at all denying it. It is actually all diving, or it's very fascinating, of course, because the underwater world is something which is always so colorful and
Yeah.
mysterious, I would say sometimes. But when we do data collection, we are underwater around like in one dive, we are being underwater around 50 minutes to 1 hour.
Wow. Wow. So much.
And we are studying seagrasses. I am also studying fish. In seagrasses, what we do is we put, if you see this square kind of structure, we call it a quadrat. We put that on the seagrasses, check which species of seagrasses are there, what height is it, how much cover is there, how much
Oh,
biomass
okay.
it produces. All of that, all those factors we see. Also, if there are any algal cover or any
Okay.
other things, what is the substrate? So like full habitat characterization. We see how the habitats are and how
Okay.
much food is available for dugongs
Right.
and the fish, as I was saying.
Okay.
So we collect that data. It is not as simple as you go and swim underwater, because this method, especially where what is there in photo, you have to stay at one place, like hover at one place. You can't leave and go. You hover at one
Right.
place for 10 minutes straight. And you have
Right.
to, these are underwater, these are papers, these are nothing
Okay.
special, some waterproof papers, and we write with pencil on it.
Right.
There are, yeah, there are many more other techniques like using iPads and stuff, but right
Yeah.
now we are sticking to the
But
traditional one.
I mean, this
Uh,
certainly looks very, very challenging.
yeah, and like it so happens at times that you lose your pencil, or it gets broken underwater and you can't write anything. So
Yeah.
you have to depend on photo. Also, you are writing at one point, taking photos, because not everything you see is identifiable. Not some
Right.
things are there which you see for the first time. You don't even know what to call them
Yeah.
because it's so unexplored. It's very, very difficult to identify stuff.
True.
So we need to have photographs and videos all the time. So you are writing
Wow.
also, you are taking photographs also,
Right.
and managing your air and
I
everything.
know, too much
So
equipment.
it is, yeah, tedious work. It's fun. It is fun, but it is
Oh,
very, very
but
difficult.
it's
You
very
need a lot
difficult.
of practice. It's like driving. It's like
Yeah.
driving. The more you practice, you get pro at it.
Right.
It's
Right.
like that.
Right.
And when you say difficulties, it is like, so that 1 hour you spend underwater, for that 1 hour, or if you do like more dives in that day, generally we do 2 or 3 dives in a day.
Okay.
So 2 or 3 hours completely underwater. The other part, which is over water, preparing everything, booking boats, cars, taking
Yeah.
all your equipment, maintaining them, travel long distances, because we stay at one place. We have to
Yes.
travel long, long distances, especially
Exactly.
in the Andaman Islands. You
Right.
have islands so far from where you are living. So once I was in Andaman and we went to this place called Rani Jhansi Marine
Okay.
National Park.
Okay.
There was one island. There is one island called Henry Lawrence. So
Okay.
we took 3 hours to go, just to go.
Wow.
Three
Just
hours
to
by a
travel.
small boat.
Right.
Then, yeah, then we did 2 dives. We collected all the data, had
Wow.
food, took some rest, coming back three
Right.
hours. So
Yeah.
we started at 4 in the morning and
Right.
we ended
Right.
at like 5 in the evening. and
Wow.
that's the regular day.
That's the regular day.
Yeah, and if something happens, there are many stories where your boat engines break or you
That
get
is
caught in a storm and you have to wait. It's scary at
some
times,
things
but
you
it's
cannot
fun.
avoid. So
Yeah.
that's really interesting. And there are some questions I can see. Talking about seagrasses, could you tell us something about what is the situation of seagrasses around, say, Indian coast or say Andamans? And
Okay.
is there a plan about their conservation or their reintroduction
Mm,
or
mm,
growing them, simply growing them if in more numbers? Is there any kind of plan?
mm. Okay. So I guess I have not introduced seagrasses properly before. So seagrass, yeah, the seagrasses are flowering plants. The
Okay.
normal flowering plants, they also get flowers and fruits, which is very special because imagining underwater flowers and fruits
Yeah.
is very difficult. Also, they are very tiny, so it's not the plant as whole, but the flowers and fruits are quite
Okay.
tiny.
Okay.
uh yeah, and they form these lawns kind of thing. In around the world we have 60 seagrass species and they are
Okay.
found all over the world
Acha.
except Antarctica. They are found everywhere.
Okay.
uh, in India also we have a lot of places where we find seagrasses. So Gujarat, Tamil Nadu and Andaman are obviously there. Then there
Right.
is Lakshadweep.
Okay.
Also on west coast, there are like Goa, Karnataka. There are records of seagrasses, but they
Okay.
are said to be seasonal. They are not like
Acha. Okay.
growing for full year
Good.
or
Right.
can
Not
support
annual
the dugong
species.
population.
Right.
That, yeah.
Right.
Then on east coast also you have seagrasses in Chilika Lake and all of that.
Okay.
So there are seagrasses, yeah, seagrasses growing in a lot of places, but they are not given that importance. There are
Okay.
some NGOs and some research institutes working on the uh, not reintroduction, or I would say planting of seagrasses,
Right.
and
Just creating more habitat.
saying, yeah, creating more habitat. So they are using like bamboo squares for planting
Okay.
those seeds or saplings.
Okay.
But it is all right now at experimental level. It's not
Okay.
quite yet successful. Also in places like Sweden and all, they are trying to plant seagrasses more, but it's not on big scale as of now. People are
Okay.
trying and deducing more methods.
All right. So that's good to know. But I guess we have discussed how difficult it is to cite a live individual of a dugong, and we always
Yeah.
have to depend on indirect signs. So how many times has it
Hmm.
happened that rather than these two things, a live individual or indirect sign, you have come across a dead individual? Because I know you did that a lot. So, how frequent it is,
Sadly.
and what are the emotions? Because we know the Indian population is under threat, and when you see a dead individual,
Hmm.
what are the emotions that you all go through?
Oh, okay, difficult. So it's as the threats are mentioned, they get entangled in nets, they get hit by boat, and they can die subsequently.
Right.
It's not like they die all the time,
Of course.
but
Right.
there are many instances they die. In Tamil Nadu specifically, being the like pressure is so much that we have seen at least 31
Wow.
individuals dead
In how
since
much span?
2017.
Wow.
Since
So,
2017.
right. So around in 4 years.
Yeah, yeah. And then all sizes. It's not male, female,
Everything.
calves, everything. Yeah. First time I remember when I saw first time a dead dugong, a huge one, a 10 feet individual,
Wow.
full grown male, and it was dead. It was full bloated, like a fat individual. People, literally 7 to 8 people, were trying to push it just out of
Wow.
water. It was that heavy, around 400 kilo of
Wow.
weight. So it's huge. And it was sadly it was a case of poaching. So people got caught.
Okay.
People
Okay.
were sentenced for it. Yeah,
Okay.
they their boat and net is confiscated and all of that. But it was a very sad case. It was my first incident when
Right.
since I joined the project. So it was traumatizing for sure, because something you really want to see so
Yeah.
desperately, and then
And
what you
then
see
end up
is
seeing
dead
a,
and losing one. Yeah,
yeah.
losing one individual. But then scientifically speaking, in the end you come to data points.
Of course.
When
You
you are
have to,
researchers, you
yeah,
just
you have
you
to
think
just
you think
work your
about
way
data.
ahead. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you
That,
think about data, and dead animals can tell so many things. So the genetic study I was telling you about has
yeah.
come
Yeah.
from all the dead animals.
Oh,
So we are able to
interesting.
collect the tissue samples of these
Right.
animals. When
Right.
they are dead, we are able to collect those tissues or bones or teeth,
Right.
whatever, from
Yeah.
where we can extract the DNA and study further.
Right.
Also, we see what they eat, or if they have any
Right.
infections or
Right.
something else. So there are uh, there are few cases where we found worms in the stomach
Okay.
of dugongs.
Okay.
The gut content analysis is going on. So what they eat, what species they
Will
prefer.
know more. So
Uh,
even a dead animal
yeah,
is
we
has a lot of information.
yeah, they shouldn't be dying anymore, of
Of
course,
course. Of
but
course.
it is a data point,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
can't deny that being a
Of course,
researcher.
you cannot. You cannot.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
just to summarize, we've been talking about how communities are important and how these threats are mainly related to these fishing communities. And I know your
Yeah.
team is doing a lot of awareness work about saving these dugongs. So when you go out to these communities talking about these dugongs and saving them, what is their general reaction or how their response has been to this whole effort of dugong conservation?
So when I joined the project in 2018, I got many things in hand, because
Okay,
there were people who were working before me, and they
right,
had put a lot of efforts just talking to the communities,
right.
creating a rapport, telling them the importance of dugongs. And with those efforts, people literally have flipped 180 degrees, and then they are
Wow.
helping us wholeheartedly with
Wow.
the dugong conservation. With that, we have almost six incidences of releasing dugongs which are
Wow.
entangled in net. So
Right.
fishermen cut their nets,
Wow.
which is so important for
That is
them. They cut
something.
those nets and release the animals.
Wow.
So we also felicitate them. The
Oh,
forest department also felicitates them, which is
right.
a very good thing, which is very encouraging for them.
Right.
Of course, there are still some people who are refusing to come out of the
Right.
traditions, but I'm sure they will
You
someday,
will, of course.
because
It's not a one
yeah.
day thing.
But most of people, most of the people are very supportive
That-
and understanding that why these animals are important, even to them, even to us,
Right.
and even the whole system, because they are so connected with the sea. They know a lot about dugongs than we as working on dugongs. They
Right.
have a lot more
Of
information.
course.
Also, they say sometimes that in night when they go for fishing, they can hear the animal breathing.
Wow.
When
Wow.
it comes on surface,
Right.
it just blows its breath. So
Right.
they can
Right.
hear that. So they are that connected. They know places where dugongs are frequently seen. They
Right.
also so traditional fishermen don't put nets in very long areas, or in
Okay.
seagrass meadows specifically, where dugong can get entangled, or even if they get entangled, they leave it. There are
Acha.
many instances like that. They leave turtles also. If
Oh,
something else
okay.
also get entangled, they leave it. So
Acha.
they are that aware of the system, of the marine
Right.
system, that how
Right.
important it, how we shouldn't kill them. But there is still fraction of population. We need to
We need to.
sensitize and
Yeah.
tell them how it is important.
It's
Yeah,
it's
but I'm sure
really
they will come
important.
along.
Yeah. It's really important to work with community. So just taking the last question, and something also I am interested in is how do you see the future in monitoring these animals? If we say technically, are there any plans to say radio monitor or using some high tech technology to just find these alive individuals and maybe monitoring them? Is there any plan?
Yes. So one of my colleagues in the team is working on working with drones. So we
Okay.
are trying to locate the dugongs with drones as of now, because from surface they are very difficult to see. But when
Right.
aerially you can see, there was a
Okay.
photo also
Yeah. Yeah.
where you can see a mother and calf, which is from Andaman Islands. It is a drone photo, so you
Okay.
can see the whole animal in drone.
Right. Right.
So that technique we are like he is trying his hands on currently. He's also
Okay.
doing his PhD in that. So
Okay.
we hope to see some population estimates coming out of that.
Right.
There are also a lot of techniques which are used outside, and we are trying to get into that, like uh, this the vocal. So as dolphins are known for their vocal
Right.
communication,
Communication.
dugongs also have, yeah,
Okay.
dugongs also have sound communications.
Right.
So they are trying to do the auditory analysis,
Okay.
but we are still we are baby in the dugong conservation as a
Right.
country,
Right. Yeah.
because yeah, as we were saying about World Dugong Day, the conservation of dugong, like the memorandum of understanding was signed by India
Okay.
in 2008, which is
Acha.
very recent.
Yeah.
Yeah, as compared to Australia and other countries, we are literally starting out in dugong conservation
Yeah.
compared to them. It's not like
Okay.
we are very behind and we cannot do it. We
Okay.
can, but it will take time
It will
to
take
get all these equipments.
equipment
Yeah,
and understanding our population and its current
yes,
situation. Of course, it will
definitely.
time. Yes. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you, Chinmaya, for joining in today and giving us all these very interesting and, of course, unknown insights about this very mystical animal. I think I should say dugong. And it was really great to talk to you about all this. And thank you for sharing the images also.
Yeah, I had fun talking about it, and I wish people will read more, see more videos. And we have, for that, we have our Instagram, Facebook, and the Twitter handles.
Yes.
Nikhil can share
I
that
will
in
share
the
it in the
video.
post. Yeah.
Yeah. And you can see a lot of posts related to dugongs, what work we are doing,
Right.
just some facts like that.
Yes.
All of that you can see on those handles. And please
Yes.
follow us for that if you are
Yes.
interested.
Yes, and it's very important to not just follow them. For please share this video also, because it's
Yes.
better for more people to know about this animal, because it's very beautiful and it's very interesting to work on it. So with that, I think we'll end our chat over here. So thank you, Chinmaya, once again for joining in today, and thank you everybody for watching this live. We'll see you next Saturday.
Thank
Till then,
you for calling me. Yeah.
yes, yes. So we'll see you all on next Saturday evening. Till then, goodbye.
Bye. Take care.